This is Nnamdi Henacho, founder of the African American Collective, and I'm excited to come back and continue this series. I started this before the summit just kind of to create and show, uh, kind of have relevant and meaningful conversations with our community and our people around what we had going on. But I figured let's just continue, right? It was very productive. And so I figured we'll just continue having these conversations. And so today we're going to just have like sessions like this every Thursday around this time, and we'll look for meaningful topics affecting, the African immigrants here in the United States, and even at a more global scale, have more meaningful conversations. One, to serve our community, but also to answer questions and also educate. And inform people who may be allies who have questions and try to understand our journey, and that's the goal of the sessions. And so, thank you for being here with myself. Today, I have an interesting topic I want to talk about, I want to get into, and that is why are so many people migrating from Africa. Now, if you already migrated, then you know why you left your home country. And if you did a poll or did a survey and asked, immigrants, African immigrants from across the, spectrum, you'd hear different reasons for which they are here. But today I just want to unpack what exactly, immigration or migrate from Africa, why it's rising, why I feel like it's rising, and uh, um, how we as a community here, the African diaspora, African immigrant community, how we need to respond to that. Um, and if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. Maybe that will be another video I do, but a few important stats here that I want to start with. Over 40 million Africans live outside the continent. 40 million of us. That's a whole other um, that's a whole other big country by itself. The African diaspora is its own country. If we were to put us together in one geographic location, it is its own big country. And so you see, top destinations clearly North America, so the US and Canada. Europe is also big for immigration, for African immigration. So like the UK, you see Germany, Italy. So those countries have a good amount of African immigrants. And then, of course, in the last decade, I'll say the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, has been, another destination that's people are not just going to visit, but actually moving to live in. And so those are some top. Again, there's different countries you can name. I've seen people pretty much everywhere. So many countries that are popping into my brain right now as I navigate, as I talk through this. I'm thinking, oh, I know someone from Sweden, I know someone who's from this place and that place and Switzerland. And it's incredible the places we moved to. But the question is why? All right, why are people leaving? And I want to clarify, when it comes to migration, it's diverse, right? There's unskilled, there's skilled. There are people who have, there are skilled people who are leaving, there's unskilled people. There are people who are going as students, there are people who are going as entrepreneurs, and there are people who are living as refugees. So we have to talk about that. People in war-torn countries that are forced to leave their homes, right? There are people who, for business reasons, want to go start businesses in that place to expand their scope of their business, expand the reach of their business, they leave. There's students, of course, F1 visa, I know that too well. And then, skilled labor and unskilled labor. So these are different, I would say diversity of options or immigration, I guess, options that, you see people taking immigration routes. But the question is why, right? If you grew up like I did in your home country and grew up to become an adult, or almost an adult, fully fledged man, I did my migration or my immigration journey started. I was almost 25. I was 24 when I left that year. I turned 25, and so. That's a full-grown, fully formed individual, right? A full-grown man. And so, if you're going to leave everything you've known to that point to go start afresh somewhere else, with a lot of uncertainty hanging over your head, what will lead you to that decision? For some people, I've seen people who left older than I was when I left, right? I've seen people in their 40s and even late 40s, moving with their families. What will lead you to make such a life-changing decision? Um, with really no guarantees, because you really don't know. All you're moving is based on hope, hope and some information, and all of that. So it's a major decision for most people who have migrated, and I really want this for people who, again, for every immigrant who has left everything to relocate, they know why they left, right? They have their own whys and they have their own. But for people who don't understand it, who have questions around immigration, right? There's so much noise right now, and especially in the American political, in the American political space around immigration. It's always a hot button topic around politics, immigrants, and people have put the immigrant in a box, right, when it comes to that conversation. And it's such a large expanse of humans with different experiences and intentions, that is really unfair to, like, it'll be great for you to actually get to know these people's journey, and why we've chosen to come, or why we've left. I think that creates a healthy understanding, and so many reasons lead to why people leave, especially talking from an African perspective now. First is the economy, right? Economic pressure. A lot of people, I know this one for sure, if our countries were doing well and we were setting off even just a decent, no, I'm not talking about, like, you don't even need a promise of wealth. You just need a promise of stable, decent, afford. A lot of people I know today will still be in their home countries. Like, most people who are coming are not looking to come and get rich. Most immigrants who they're not looking for wealth and affluence, all of that. They literally just want basic amenities. They just want to give their children a shot at life. They just want to be able to afford to take care of themselves and their families and people who depend on them. The economics of it is the number one economic pressure. It's a lot of people who have done all they can. Like, we've been taught, we grew up learning to work hard and go to school and get degrees. And then you see folks who have a master's degrees and certifications and don't have much to show for it. And so the option, and then they see somebody who goes and, like, you know what, maybe if I go somewhere else, this will open doors for me. And that's a big driving factor for a lot of people who just say, you know what, uh, um, I will move somewhere else and see if this will work. We used to, I was watching the movie. I remember a movie then when we were younger. Um, I think it was Across the Border or something like that. But then the gist of the movie was migration from Nigeria to South Africa. And there was this young man who had done everything, right? He had worked hard. He wasn't just working. He couldn't break through. He couldn't make it. And one day, just out of frustration, he was like, I enter South. Like, I'm going, I'm moving to South Africa. And that is the reality for a lot of people, is after you've done everything and it's like, hey, before I stay and continue, let me explore this other option. Let me go somewhere else. Maybe my education, maybe my hard work, maybe my work ethic, maybe my background, maybe my skills will pay me there. And so they move, right? So you see things around like youth unemployment. It's a big conversation. Every election cycle in most African countries, this is a conversation, right? There are people who are graduating. We churn out graduates on a regular basis. But are there job openings to actually cater to the needs of this young people who are coming out of school, right? There is inflation and currency instability, right? That, it's always like, what's the value of the currency, and what can you really get? So people are making money, but then it's really not worth as much or worth anything. You can't really do much with the income coming in, right? Because of inflation and all of this. And then for people who are looking to do business, it's like, hey, what infrastructure is in place, right? Access to capital, what infrastructure is in place to help me thrive in business? I have this great idea and I'm really struggling bootstrapping it, all of that. And I feel like if I just go somewhere, this meets a need here, maybe it will work. And so economic pressures, these are some of the top reasons why people uh, um, are leaving. The next category is education and opportunity. Again, around economics, but I'll go education, quality education, and professional advancements, right? So you see people who I think this I had this moment. I can speak to this a lot. I went through and I went to really good school. I went to really incredible college, um, and very proud of my alma mater. But I remember during my SciWest, we have SciWest in Nigeria, 6 months IT, going and then mingling and seeing people from seeing the workforce and seeing what the requirements were to be successful, right? It's a different ballgame when you're in class and just doing the class and then passing exams. But now you're studying computer engineering and then you go out and you realize you you don't know how to computer engineer anything. I think that's shifted for me and I felt like I needed more, right? I needed to upskill. I needed more education. And so while I got for the standards that were available, opportunity available to me and available within the country, I got the best. But there was more for what I was trying to do in my career. And so that was what sparked that desire, right? For some, it's hey, again, it's I have all of the skills, I have all the certifications, but I need to give it expression and I don't have the opportunity, right? And so some people want to test their skills against the best. I want to go where the best in the world exists. And so it drives them to leave. Right? I know a lot of people like that who they have certifications that are very rare. And you realize, well, you're here in this place, and you have this excellent certification, but there's no platform opportunity to showcase it or to even use that to make any meaningful impact. And so the next option becomes let me go to where I can explore the fullness of this skill that I have, right? And this education and professional advancement, immigration, leads to what we've always talked about within the African political conversation as the brain drain, right? Brain dynamics, and what that just means is, hey, the best of us are leaving, right? You see people talking about this with, especially you see in the medical field, right? A lot of the great doctors, excellent doctor scientists, they leave, right? Again, not because they can't find, but again, there's not enough opportunity to give expression to all of their training and education, and so they leave. They leave to go where there's the infrastructure, go where there's the opportunity, and so that leads to okay, the best of us are leaving. That's always a conversation that we've had. How do we, in most African countries, especially in the political ecosystem, we're always talking about how do we retain our good people so that they don't go, right? So, but that's another reason for another category for why people immigrate, right? And then the next one is political instability and insecurity, and this is a big one. There are so many countries, and I really want especially people who are not African, who are part of the immigration discourse, to pay attention to this. There are so many people who live in war-torn countries. We don't even know about them. The Israel-Palestinian war is covered by the news, but there's so much more. There's so many unstable regions in Africa where there's dictatorship, where there is poverty, where it likes different things. There's civil unrest in so many countries that don't make the news. And so when people have the chance to leave those circles, like there's been, for like Cameroon has been in a civil war for so long, there's so many nations, right, that are not have unstable or security issues. You talk about even from where I'm from, there is segments, right? If you live in the Lagos or the Abujas, yes, you're fine, you're safe, right? But there's so much. If you start going into those unnamed places, there is security concerns, right? It's almost like the kidnapping. There's a kidnapping industry, where you kidnap somebody and then have their loved ones contribute to, say, like it's an industry right now. So there's insecurity. There is people are afraid. There's a lot of fear in the land. There's security concerns, and so yes, the rich can afford to get security, get security, get protection. But what about people who can't? And so when people realize, hey, listen, if I don't want to live like this, I want some more. I want security. I don't want my kids through this. and they find an opportunity to leave, they take it. Right? There are people who have been on the run from from their own people, and so these are conversations that don't make it to mainstream media. They don't make it mainstream, but these are real issues. There are people who are legit afraid for their lives, who have to leave, right? And going from wherever they are to Lagos might not just cut it. Uh, so, and hence they've looked for a place where they can be safe, right? And of course, some people just want a better life. That's where we have, you know, we see people, we see our peers who are abroad, and we like we like what we see, right? Especially, you see, especially during Christmas season, you see guys from the US come back, you see guys from Canada, the one from the UK, and everybody's flexing and acting. I remember as a kid, my American family will come back and they looked like they were walking on water. They were walking on air. Right? They would come back, it was just glam. They would, coming in their nice cars and everything. And the kids looked like nice. They just looked like, yes, the things were just better for them than it was for us. And so at some point you're like, I want that. And so that desire for a better life, that aspirational migration, and of course that becomes a reason why people want to migrate. Um, People hear success stories. And so what the world doesn't realize is how much influence as well, the Western culture has across the world. I don't just want to say Africa, but movies, all of that gets a lot of that in Western influence, and there's a picture of success and a good life that is painted. And so when people start looking for what's next, especially when you're running out of opportunity, you start thinking, hey, maybe America might be the place to go. Maybe Canada is the next stop for me. Maybe the UK is where I want to be. What does this mean? All right, now that we've explored the different, what does this mean for us? On the positive, it's more exposure, right? And we've seen that, especially if you see the propagation of the Afrobeats culture. Afrobeats is mainstream in the US right now, and it is on the backs of African immigrants, right? That's the truth. It's people who are looking at who want to hear sounds that they heard when they're growing up. Sounds, familiar sounds, want to listen to our favorite artists from back home. And so we've turned those people into near celebrities, not near actual celebrities here, right? Like you see, concerts by African artists here in the US, and they're selling out arenas, right? They're selling out arenas. O2 Arena is sold out in the UK, like here in the US. These guys are selling out, they're killing it. That's that migration of culture. So it's like giving exposure to our culture, our stories are coming. You see our worship, our worship, our style of worship is making it into the mainstream. We're having this, African churches are thriving. They're a big, they're a big platform for cultural integration. And so people get to experience our worship, how we worship, how we, our food. It's taking that global stage. Things like jollof is no longer, it's mainstream now, right? It's not just an African, delicacy anymore. It's beyond that. It's beginning to find its way, in the realms of the Chinese food, kind of. And so that's a positive. It's that exposure. It's opportunity too for businesses, right? Because the African diaspora, our immigrant community, eventually you see that most people, their heart is at home. So when people say things like go back to your country, I promise you a lot of people will go back if things were right, or if things took a turn for the better, people will return home. And how like I'll use a reference, a scriptural reference. The Bible says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart is also." The biggest foreign investments we get in Africa is still Africans who are sending money home, right? And so companies who offer remittances, who offer global payment solutions, who are able to basically let you send money back home, they are booming, right? You see an emergence of a lot of them now. Even the local banks back home are beginning to build this part into their, their offers, their services, because there's just an unlimited opportunity there, right? So there's opportunities for in business, transactional networks. It's easy to drive global influence. So a lot of people who are influencers back home, businesses, right? They're riding on the backs of immigrants here to come and push their brand, right? I've seen so many prominent people from back home come and do things in Texas, do things in Atlanta, do trade fairs, they're able to leverage, and again, it's not a new audience. The new audience is on the backs of us who are saying, hey, these people are actually great, right? And so let's go check out what they're doing. Let's see, and so the resident immigrant workforce, the resident immigrants community here in the US, in Canada, all of those places, they are bringing their new friends along. They are bringing the extension into our story, into our experience, and it's highlighting our culture. It's highlighting opportunities, who we are. So that exposure is great. The business opportunities are great. The global networks, global influence, it's been propagated on the back. I think I saw an interview that Davido did, and he was talking about how even for him in the US here, it was literally on the backs of Africans who are here, who would request for his songs in the clubs, who would, because they're spending so much at the clubs, they put requests for songs, the DJs will play his songs, right? And so those things did well, helped his music gain some more exposure than he would have. So those are some positives. The challenges goes back to that brain drain. So the new home countries have a brain gain, right? They gain this excellent talent. They gain this incredibly skilled people who are the best of the best, right? It's not something that's hidden. Right? You see, again, during every political cycle, during elections and all of that, which immigrants do they want? They want the best of them to stay. Right? They want to bring the best of them. So the way immigration is set up is to attract, for most countries, they set it up to attract the best of the best from all of these other countries, all the African countries. It's the best doctors, it's the best, it's the smartest. They're the ones who get the scholarships, they're the ones who get the scholarships, they get the opportunities, they get the funding, they get the teaching assistantships. Right? It goes to the best of the best. They don't also come here, who it's easy for, right? But what that is doing is US is gaining, Canada is gaining, our African countries are losing this, immense talents, right? So that's a challenge for every or most immigrants who were not born here. There's that integration struggle, right? You've had identity crisis. You've wondered, what in the world am I doing here? If you went from home straight to maybe a more no, you didn't come to Atlanta first. Like, if you didn't come to Atlanta, you didn't go to Texas, you didn't go to Houston. Right? For me, my first one was Wilmington, and it was new. Like, for the first time, I understood what it felt like to be a real minority, not just in sound, but in looks as well. So that integration struggle is real. Most people have experienced it. Disconnection from home. This is the most painful one for me. Is you feel like I want to be part of what's going on, but I can't because of the distance, right? It's not enough to just send money or send resources, but if you're not able to be present, you miss out on things that you were part of. These things were an integral part of the fabric of your existence and being, and you miss it. You can't be a part of it. Another time, you just realize you never really. It's always funny when I see my fellow Africans, and I talked about this before, where we try to tweak our accents to sound American or sound American. You never really, especially if you came fully formed, if you were past teenage years and you came to the US, came to Canada, you can never have a pure American accent. You can't. It's not possible. Your tongue is already formed, and so you don't sound American enough. But you start losing the originality of you, and so you also don't sound African enough to. You're almost like a beast with no nation, a beast of no nation. You don't fit in with your people, and you don't fit in with your new people. So it's that disconnect. It's almost like who are we? Where do we fit in? And that's why we need to come together as well, because there's a whole bunch of us who are in this middle ground area. And as I kind of get towards wrapping up, and I hope it's painting perspective for most people, maybe people who, every immigrant has their own story on why they are here and what that means for them.